The Summer League is a showcase put on every year by the NBA as an opportunity for fringe players, G Leaguers, and rookie or sophomore players to try their luck in front of NBA staff as an opportunity to play for a spot on the roster. Last year, I did this exact video for the Brooklyn Nets and it garnered a lot of love, so I'm back for the annual edition of the Brooklyn Nets Summer League Takeaways. Obviously, we'll be considerate of the conditions of the Summer League when analysing player performances. Lots of turnovers, inefficiency from the field, and a crap ton of fouls are all characteristics which I'll do my best to brush aside when looking at it all from an analytical perspective. So let's begin by looking at all the Summer League Nets listed players. First we've got Cam Thomas, Kessler Edwards, Sharpe, all sophomores, Alondas Williams, who is on a two-way contract. If we look at other players to watch, David Duke Jr. rejected the offer sheet for the other two-way contracts, so he isn't a part of the Nets squad, but he will be trying his luck for a standard. Also, Raekwon Gray on that list, played some G League last year, was a late second-round pick for the Nets a season ago, and Donovan Williams signed an Exhibit 10, so that basically means you're on a training camp deal and you try your luck for a roster spot later on in the season. First match of the campaign was against Milwaukee. That'll go down as a 4-point loss. Basically, to sum this one up, we started strongly with an early run and had a double-digit lead, but then the shots weren't falling. The offense slumped. The lead blew out, but then we fought back and weren't able to overcome the deficit. If we look at the box score, the top performers, Cam Thomas with 31, got to the line a fair bit and scored at a pretty good rate percentage-wise. David Duke, very similar percentage, had 22 points. And then you've also got Raekwon Gray and Sharpe chipping in with some nice numbers. Player spotlight for this game, Cam Thomas. Basically, in my notes, I've written down that his shot creation has not wavered. He's finding various avenues to points, whether that's floaters, dribble drives, through contact, mid-ranges, step-backs, turnarounds. We see this a lot through the entirety of the Summer League. You've also got David Duke Jr., who had a noticeable aggression in this game in heading to the rack. He was comfortable with the ball in his hands. He isn't scared of the attention that comes with being the distributor, and I think that's really valuable in terms of development for him. And noticeably, Sharpe also was happy to take it off the bounce and create for his team as a big man, so that's also a big positive in the development of his skill set. We go to game number 2. Brooklyn play Philadelphia, and this was a close contest throughout the game. The lead really didn't extend outside of half a dozen for either side until the closing stages, where the Nets, had a little bit more of a cushion, and that's ultimately where the game was decided. We look at the box score numbers for this game. Cam Thomas, kept up the good work, 26 points, got to the line an absolute ton. David Duke with 21 points following up his first game. Had 10 free throws as well, so he got to the free throw line and shot it efficiently. Sharpe with a very good all-round performance, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 13 points, 11 rebounds. You absolutely take that. And Alondas Williams, this was probably his best game of the campaign. All up, he had 9 points, 5 dimes, and shot the ball well in limited action. For this game, there was a lot more to like. Cam Thomas, he started the game pretty slowly. He didn't let the poor shooting night really deter his aggression, and he was able to rectify his inaccuracy from the line, and he capitalized. I do believe he shot about 5 of 17 from this game. He was also eager to hand it off in this game. He had a bit of a better balance between passing and shooting. Often drew the defender and gave the extra feed, which accounted for, I'd say, half of his assists. We've got the player spotlight on David Duke as well. He had some great navigation to the paint. He was able to split the defense numerous times and scored through contact. He was a key pioneer of Nets transition buckets as well, and going downhill, especially with all the, the turnovers that Philly were racking up. Sharpe was probably the unsung best player of the game. That's at least what I've put in my notes. He had a pulverizing dunk over, I believe it was Miles Powell. His distribution was on point and very precise. He was doing cross-court passes, behind the back passes. Really entertaining stuff from the big man. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty in an attempt to get the loose ball first. So he was, diving for a loose ball. He had some great aerial shot contests. He established front position on rebounds and worried oppositions into fouls. Me personally, I loved his positivity and his willingness to dribble after he gathers a rebound. So this ultimately helps to push the play forward and, get into a set much, much quicker. Harder to defend as well. Also putting the player spotlight on Alondas Williams. It has been noted by his college coaches that his passing is extremely good, and it was on full display here. Had some bullet feeds, had some bounce passes. That's what you love to see. He got in the right spots on the court and hit a couple deep shots. I believe a 3 and a deep 2. It's sort of a glimpse into the potential that he could potentially tap into in the future. But I think we're a long way off reaching the absolute max. Then we have the loss against Memphis. We don't talk about this one. It was a 36-point loss. They conceded the equal most points in the Summer League for a game by a team with 120. I put in my notes here that there wasn't much to say about this one apart from the fact that defense was pitiful, players looked lethargic and tired, and Memphis couldn't be any more cleaner than they were. They were, by the end of the game, they were essentially making a mockery out of us with, just party tricks. So there's no player spotlight for this, but we look at Cam Thomas once again backing it up. Third 25-plus point game in this one, 47.5% on 19 shots and 13 free throws attempted. Duke probably at his worst game alongside a lot of the Nets on the roster. And Dayron hit 2 3-point shots, had 13 and 9 and 2 blocks. So not an awful game from his end either. We advanced to game number 4. Brooklyn beat Minnesota in this one by 19. Pretty much well in command of the game for the most part, apart from the third, where we weren't necessarily playing poorly, but the lead slowly dwindled down. All in all, this one was a team performance. All players played to their strengths in this game, and there were a number of good contributors in this one. Cam Thomas again, 25-plus point game, 26 in this one, and 4 3-pointers in this one, so that was his best showing from 3, and got to the line again 8 times. David Duke had a pretty good all-around game, 16 points, 8 boards, and 6 assists, and went to the line 9 times, so he was overly aggressive in heading to the rack once again. Dayron Sharpe, this was probably his best game as well. Shot it very, very well. 20 points, 10 rebounds, 6 of them offensive, so he could not be stopped there. 4 blocks, 3 assists, plus 20 in 27 minutes. You couldn't ask for more from your big man. And Kessler Edwards had been very quiet for the first 3 games of the Summer League, but, he started to pick things up from here. 15 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, and 3 of 5 from 3. So he couldn't buy a 3-pointer in the first 3 games, but, now he started to get going. Player spotlight for this game, you would have expected a few more players in the player spotlight, but we're going to go with one here. I've labeled Dayron Sharpe in my notes as Mr. Beast Mode. He could not be stopped. A stack of players still couldn't contain this man from getting boards on the offensive glass. I do remember that first quarter, he looked like an absolute machine in the paint. He was scoring post shots as well, just very, very clean and very intelligent with the way he was able to navigate through and basically bait the defender into defending shots that, he wasn't going to shoot. He was going to wait that extra second, catch the defender off guard and score. He was defensively active with blocks. He stayed with his man. He had a few reach-ins that, actually paid off, and he won the steal. Got us going the other way. Overall, enhanced his team's performance by chipping in through a number of factors, and obviously we've covered basically all the factors here. And we look at the final game. This one was against Boston, the most recent. We won by 7. To sum this one up, it was an extremely slow start. We gained a lead, and then we went back into our shell and towards bad habits. And then we played team defense. We broke out in transition, and we didn't settle for threes, which ultimately was the difference maker with, regards to changing the game up entirely. Look, Boston were always within an arm's reach, but we were always making it a teasing distance. It was always like, 2-3 buckets away, 6-point lead. It never really got much closer than that. So we were able to be pretty comfortable winners in the end. Cam Thomas, every single game in the Summer League with 25 points was topped off with this performance. He shot a 10 of 20 and had his second highest assist game with 6. Duke had his highest scoring game of this Summer League, finishing things with a bang. 9 of 16 from the field, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. Great showing from him. Sharpe with 10 and 10 in limited action, given he had, I think, an elbow problem. And then Kessler Edwards backed up his last game with another 15 piece and 3 threes made once again. So his offensive game really picked up at the end. And Donovan Williams, who has had a really quiet summer league and didn't really get any minutes, 9 points, 2 of 2 from 3, and 12 minutes for him. So that's a nice little cameo from him as well. In this game, David Duke Jr. could not miss in the paint. He was absolutely nuts. I mean, he contorted his body to suit. He was the recipient of many and ones. He had a strong poster in there over a big man. He had a great sense of confidence. So, obviously, really good to see there. Kessler Edwards didn't hesitate on his three-point shooting. He recognized where he was scoring from. It always resided there for three-point looks. He defensively was sound. He cut at the right moments for easy buckets. He just knew what he was doing. Obviously, a much less messy performance than the first 3 showings that he had, where he was very quiet and didn't really have much impact. And then Cam Thomas as well. This was probably the game where I think they were most locked in defensively, the opposition. And it was a little bit more difficult for him to score and get to the free throw line because of their discipline. He was settling for jumpers as well in the first half, but in the second half, and more specifically the last quarter, he was overly aggressive, in getting to the rack. He scored a lot as a result. Very good takes to the basket, and really no one could stop him. He always had the extra step on his opponent. I have made a note that for his development, this was a really good game for him. Why? Well, he had to learn to adjust. He had to work his slump out. He had to find another way to the basket. He had to overcome those mental demons of his. Basically, the idea that easy looks aren't going to be delivered to you on a platter, and obviously in the NBA, it's going to be much more difficult for him. So if he can work it out in, exhibition games and, preseason reps like the Summer League, then it's obviously going to go a long way in his development. And now for the player grades, we're going to begin with Cam Thomas, who we just talked about. We're going to give him an A-. And the reason for this, well, I think he needs to find some more consistent shooting patterns, because sometimes he's very streaky. He needs to look for the right pass, I think, more often. He needs to learn to fight through tough stretches. But having said that, he has maintained a consistent scoring output and has developed his game to be more pass first. And obviously we saw what we basically expect from the guy. We saw performances in the NBA last year that he was capable of, shooting lights out and taking over games, being a microwave scorer in essence. At the time of recording this, I don't know whether he's going to win Summer League MVP. You could argue that would send his grade up to an A or an A+, but regardless, it's been a very good campaign from him. David Duke Jr. This guy's not even on our roster, but he is fighting for a standard deal, and I believe he has earned it. I'm giving him an A+. He's been exceptional and very consistent. Probably aside from the game that we lost in an absolute blowout, I've seen him take major leaps in his game from last year. He looks visibly more confident. He's willing to facilitate, but he's also not afraid to be the one in a one-man offense. His finishing at the basket has improved drastically, and the defense, what you're going to get from him. He is a very tenacious kind of defender, very disciplined in that regard. So he was able to keep that up to go with his offensive play. So really good showing by him, especially if you put the 2 campaigns from last year's Summer League and this year's Summer League side by side. You can see the improvement. It's ridiculous. We've got Sharpe. I'm giving him an A. He's expanded on what attracted the Nets in his draft year, where basically he was a rebounding machine and he could score a little bit. But now we're really seeing his passing. His court awareness is amazing. He's doing cross-court passes. He's doing passes, over his shoulder. It's just great to see. Also, his dribbling ability, as we mentioned earlier, he's not afraid to, dribble it up the court himself, which is really good to see. He looks stronger and tougher to contain, especially in the paint when, you're trying to box that guy out to get a rebound. He's not going to make it easy for you. That hasn't really been a secret of his. Ever since he got drafted, we know that he prides himself on his rebounding ability. It seems like his post offense has improved as well, and his defensive activity looks much better in terms of the fact that, he seems to be moving a little bit more freely in terms of lateral quickness and whatnot. So there you go. Kessler Edwards, I'm going to give a B. He had a very slow start to the campaign, but he found his shot later on. He was engaged defensively. He took the right shots, and he recognized his strengths in the later games. And ultimately, that's why his percentages improved. So, he's made amends for that very slow start with a very strong finish to the campaign. We've got Raekwon Gray, who I'm going to give a C+. He showed some nice things as a starter in all 5 games. He was good with defensive verticality. He's a big guy. He weighs in at about 270 pounds as a power forward, which is nuts. And he can, handle the ball as well. So that's good to see. He was reading passing lanes, which was nice to see as well from a defensive standpoint. Had some strong finishes in the paint. He wasn't awful off the dribble for his size. He looks more mobile, given he's shed some weight as well, because last year doing the Summer League, he was a lot heavier when you put it into perspective. So he's worked hard in the weight room to, get that down. So that's been good to see. But his role didn't really permit him to have a huge role in the Summer League and hit his ceiling. So we haven't probably seen the best of him. He was solid though, but nothing really that special. And Alondas Williams, I'm going to give a C. Why? Because one game he performed pretty well, but in other games, although he showed glimpses, it was also conflicted with turnovers and unintelligent plays. I was impressed with some of his passing though, pace and accuracy on the ball when he was doing that. But overall, I think it was a pretty average showing, and he'd be a bit stiff to be marked lower than average, but I don't think he was worthy of getting any more than a C. So plenty of room for development. He's a two-way play for a reason, so he'll get plenty of reps in the G League, which will help this development to be undertaken. And so that's all for the 2022 Summer League. The Nets ended 3-2. Some pretty good performances in there. I think this really speaks volumes about Sean Marks' ability to draft players and just find hidden gems all over the joint. Cam Thomas, obviously late first round. Sharpe, late first round, acquired in a trade. Kessler Edwards, second round pick. Raekwon Gray, last 5 picks in the draft. Alondas Williams, not even drafted. David Duke, not even drafted. This just goes to show that he is not an idiot. This has showed his potential as a GM to find these hidden gems. They've performed really well in the Summer League, as per the grades would suggest. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what will happen from here. Obviously, a couple spots remaining on the roster. I would expect David Duke to occupy one of those standard contracts because he deserves it ultimately. I think he's really earned it. 3 20-point games. Cam Thomas picking up where he left off. Sharpe looking like he's developed. Kessler Edwards probably a little bit iffy, but the signs are there. And it's going to be good to see. I'm very interested to see what goes on for the rest of the offseason. We will be making another video where we rate all the Nets signings, so make sure to tune in for that. Like this one, subscribe to the show. Plenty of watch-alongs will be happening in the NBA season, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.